So I had a really interesting conversation yesterday, and it was right after you spoke to the team, broke them down. And so I had a couple conversations with a couple current Bills players about what it meant to see you back in the building, but also kind of breaking things down. And one of the conversations was with David Edwards.
Ooh.
And so I'm going to give everybody a little bit of history here. When David Edwards first signed with the Bills, he was coming over from the Rams, and he had kind of dealt with, some concussion issues over in LA. And his first press conference, I kind of talked to him at the end of it, and I could tell the anxiety that kind of came over him when I wanted to talk about that history. Sure. And so I kind of tread lightly on that. I wanted to wait till he was ready to talk about it. And even to this point, we haven't quite really talked about it. And when I asked him about you and being back, and obviously you had your struggles with concussions early in your career, this was the quote that he had about you. And I'm putting you on the spot here, and it might get a little emotional.
Dave's the man.
But Dave said, I feel like God put me in a position to come here so I could meet Mitch, because I came off that concussion and he had kind of dealt with that. I really didn't know how to navigate coming back, and his grace, humility, and willingness to tell people, somebody that he had just met, I'll never forget that. I'm forever indebted to Mitch. And I wanted to read that to you and get your reaction to it. But the other thing is, he told me his first couple days here, he's at OTAs, he's just meeting the guys. Your family's back in Kansas, and you say, hey, let's come over, let's shoot some pool. And he said it was like 3 hours of conversation. I mean, to have that kind of impact on him, react to what he said, but also why you always made that a priority to pour into guys like that.
Well, Dave is a special person. I mean, if you guys ever get an opportunity to meet David Edwards, he is a gem. He not only is an amazing football player, but just talk about good humans. Like God broke the mold when he made David Edwards. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's one of those things that it's a touchy subject, and rightfully so. Like, there's a conversation about concussions, and that's fine. And you know what? Everyone has crosses to bear in this league. Mine was concussions, and it was something that by the time he had gotten there, I'd held that cross for quite some time, right? So this was not new waters for me. And Dave gives me a little more credit than I deserve, but it's another thing. It's a people business, right? My family was gone. Dave's family was gone. We were just two folks hanging out, and I love the guy. There's nothing else to say except that those were incredibly kind words from a man that I hold at the highest regard. An amazing football player who hasn't gotten the dues I think he deserves. And, yeah, it just means the world. That's all you want when you come back, is for your friends and teammates to have that opinion. It doesn't matter for me. Of course, I want to put a good product on the field. You rent the jersey. Time is fleeting in this league, man. That's it comes and goes. But what doesn't come and go are the relationships you try to build. And that's what I hold at priority. The highest priority of all is my teammates and how they view me, and the relationships I have with them. To hear that, it means I did something right in an area that I find very important.
The David Edwards story is also, like, amongst Bills fans, there's definitely a section that there's a panic about Josh Allen being in the prime of his career, not getting to a Super Bowl, not winning a Super Bowl yet, and an impatience with whether it's Sean, Brandon, the process, all of it. But I also think that the David Edwards story is one of the pieces of the process of this regime that doesn't get appreciated enough. They bring him in, somebody that Aaron had a history with, allow him to come back at his own pace, find a role for him until he's ready to start. And that is, I think, why people in the building hold the two of them to such a high regard, is the vision beyond just the X's and O's and winning. There's a plan for each and every player that I think there's a lot of care that goes into that. And that's from the outside looking in, my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. And this is a what have you done for me lately business, right? It's easy. We were talking to Brandon today about how do you not listen to the outside noise? How do you stick to your guns? How do you manage process? You get a tough phone call that you know is going to hit the media. How do you not make guttural reactions, or how do you do all this stuff? But when you make the plunge and bring someone in, they don't do that on a whim. You have a guy like Cromer who vouches for someone. You hold what Cromer says to high regard. Every person walks a different path in this league, man. You have 90 guys to start with, and then you have 70-something, including practice squad. Navigating that, keeping personal relationships as well. It's a transactional business, right? This is a tough business to invest in people because you know you're going to have a proverbial breakup at some point. That doesn't mean you don't invest in folks. That doesn't mean you don't take the time, because football's hard. You guys see it you're in the building. You pick up on these little things, like, and you have to have everyone marching at the same beat of the same drum to the best of your ability. And if you do that by just keeping it transactional or listening to the outside noise, that's how you sink or you ride these ebbs and flows that good organizations don't do. And I feel like the Bills are one of the best organizations, if not the best, at doing that.
And it's funny, this is a conversation Matt and I had recently, and you might have some bias to this as well because you are an offensive lineman. The importance of building up the O-line versus getting weapons for a quarterback. You look at Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. Unfortunately, it feels like an Andrew Luck situation where his career is getting ruined. Whereas in Buffalo, Josh Allen wins the MVP with the everyone eats mentality. So, in terms of team building, why is it so important to make sure that the protection is there before you get any kind of the extra weapons, I guess, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I have a very biased opinion on this. You have an MVP back there. You want to keep him upright. And that doesn't mean that we don't screw up. We don't F up. But also, I think the one thing that the Bills have done great, better than almost anyone in the league, is keeping guys on the field. And that's something that's not totally controllable. But you have a guy like Aaron Cromer, who I think is just as important as having the right pieces, a guy that can get everyone on that same page. You have to have weapons as too. I'm not going to lie. You got to have guys that can do your thing, but you have to have an offensive line, not only that you trust, but gives you a little bit of grace that if I got to hold the ball on for an extra second or two, they've built up this trust. I have rapport with these dudes, and I trust the fact that they're going to fight their tail off. More than anything, I think that's the most important thing as an offensive lineman. And then you have a guy like Dave Edwards, who's won a Super Bowl, comes in, cerebral player, plays next to Deion Dawkins, knows exactly what he needs to do, his role, and just works well. You have not only just investing money in guys, but having guys who work well together. And the Buffalo Bills have done a tremendous job. And I think, to be honest, Bean and Sean come from a tree that really puts a lot of investment into the big guys. And I think it's played out very well.